Hey guys, AKIL'S here. Welcome back to the Trading Coach Podcast. Excited for today because we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics out there, which is the belief, actions, results cycle. I've talked about this plenty of times, and I'm not sure I've ever done it on the podcast. If so, it would have been years and years and years ago. So I'm excited to bring it to a fresh community. And we're gonna dig a little bit deeper on how to get that cycle started and really rev that engine of success. Now, before we hop in, just a little bit of shameless plug. Trading workshop, March 11th, link below, 200 seat max. Sign up right away or you will not be able to get in, right? This is not some type of scarcity scam, right? We like intimate kind of, auditoriums, online auditoriums when we do our event. So 200 is usually that limit before it gets out of control. So once we get to 200, we are cutting the registration down and you won't be able to register until whenever we do another one. So get on that right away. Now, today's topic came from one of our Tier 1 trading members, and if I can find the email somewhere on all these screens I have, right? It said, hey Akil, here's a question for you. When it comes to trading, the idea behind how to trade profitably is easy, right? I would say simple, but not easy, right? Learn the basics, choose a strategy, back test it, modify it. I'll actually switch those two. I would modify it first, then back test it, because after you modify it, then you got to back test it again. So you're doing the same thing twice, right? So modify it first, then test it. And then stick to it. Easier said than done, right? I would really like to listen again about the stick to it part. Nothing special, just some random thoughts from you about this topic. As a whole, the belief, action, cycle, thank you in advance. Random thoughts? You know I've got them, right? But you got to be careful whenever it comes from the mind of Akil Stokes because it often goes to quantum physics and AI invasion and alien takeovers and all the other things that are swarming through my mind as I try to dissect the charts and extract profit, right? Imagine if I actually focused my full intentions on candlesticks and not being probed by aliens or Terminator coming real. Anyway, let's get into the topic, right? Random focus, Akil, right? So let's talk about this cycle, the belief, action, results cycle. And this is a very, very, very powerful cycle if you want to be successful in anything in life, but specifically in trading. And because this is the Trading Coach Podcast, we'll kind of stick to the trading route. And there's two ways this cycle can go. I'll give you the good way and then I'll give you the bad way. And then we're going to dig into the part that really makes a difference, right? So the bad way is this. Belief. If you don't have a belief in what you're doing, you are going to fail. And unfortunately, this is what most traders do, right? We know the numbers. 90% of traders lose 90% of their money in the first 90 days of trading, and 90% of them follow the same habits. They find a book or a video or something on the internet. They say, ooh, that looks cool. They don't invest any time in actually learning it or modifying it and making it their own. They go to trade it. Either they lose right away and give up hope and then go to the next system, or they win and then eventually lose because all strategies lose if you didn't know. And then they say, oh, this is bogus, and they go on to the next thing, right? So essentially, because they don't have a belief in something, they go in or they go forward with making the wrong actions. And when you go forward doing the wrong actions, you get the wrong results. And when you get the wrong results, that doesn't help your belief. You believe less and less and less. And then you jump to the next thing and then you repeat the cycle, right? You are running on a hamster wheel of death, wasting time and energy until you eventually die. We don't want you to die. We want you to stay alive. And by die, I mean, your trading account dies, yes, but also you die because eventually, we, as time goes on, we die. You want to achieve something before you get there. Focus, Akil. Anyway, so here's the good side that we want to do, right? Belief, action, results. We want to have a strong belief in what we're doing. Because if we have a strong belief in what we're doing, we are more likely to take the correct actions. The funny thing about this, and this may seem like common sense, but most of us don't do it, when we take the right actions, we tend to get the right results, right? So when we believe in what we're doing, we do the things that we're supposed to do. When we do the things that we're supposed to do, we get the results that we desire. When we get the results that we desire, we're like, oh man, that was cool. It worked. And then we believe it even more. And then we take more of the right actions. Then we get more of the right results, right? Again, very specific to trading. This is basically following your trading plan, right? You have a system or strategy that you learn, develop, modified, back tested, right? The numbers say that, hey, This thing is profitable. It has a positive profit factor. It has an edge, a positive expectancy. Well, why do traders fail? Because they don't follow the right actions. They think they know more than the market or know more than their plan. They start doing silly stuff, right? The list is too long to name of silly stuff that you can do, and they sabotage themselves, right? So if you just do the right things, follow your trading plan, that would be taking the right actions, and surprise, you get the right results when doing so. This is the same thing in real life. Let's always go to like the diet or nutrition type of deal, because this is common for many of us, right? If we tell ourselves like, hey, I'm going to start eating the right things. No more cold cuts, no more McDonald's, more fruits and vegetables, right? Colorful things on my plate, right? Less carbs, right? And you do that for a consistent amount of time. You step on the scale or you start looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, ooh, you know what? I look kind of good, right? And you start believing it like, oh man, maybe this thing does work. And then you start doing it more and more and more because you have a belief in that what you're doing works. The problem is that most people don't, again, give it enough time, or they don't do the right actions. They say they're going to do something, and then they say they're going to eat this and eat that, but then they do something else and they don't get the results, and then they don't believe it. Oh, the diet must stink and blah, 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 blah. But again, it is ultimately you. So this is a very powerful cycle, because the more it goes, like imagine it like a tire rolling down a hill, right? You give a little push in the beginning, takes a while to get it going, and it rolls, right? Belief, action, results, belief, action, results. And it rolls, it picks up momentum, and then that momentum just can't be stopped. And the cool thing about that momentum, if you're still visualizing this tire like going down a hill, then maybe going up a small one and going back down, right? The whole momentum in Newton's laws and all that fun stuff, right? Even when you have those drawdowns, which a drawdown is a period of you losing money, a drawdown is a period of where like it just feels like the end of the world. I got a comment under one of my podcasts the other day where it was like, Akil, you took a 17 trade drawdown? How the hell did you manage that? And I'm like, well, with the help of a friend who had an 18 trade drawdown, right? We kind of suffered through it together. Misery loves company. But the truth of the matter was, at that point, if I would have done that at the beginning of my trading career, I would have been toast. I would have made every mistake in the world. I would have blown my account. I would have given up all the things that normal people do. But this was years and years and years after I was already a consistently profitable trader. So I was like brainwashed into knowing that I was good in a personal inside of me, but also knowing that my system and my strategy was good, right? And over the years, I had gained so much momentum with that tire going down the hill that if you can imagine this drawdown being a little hill upwards, right? I had enough steam to absorb that upwards movement, right? The tire was still going from all that downward momentum, got over it and continued the way down. And we got to look at our trading as that, because in trading, you're going to go through ups and downs. You look at any equity curve. There's no equity curve that goes straight up, right? It ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows. And our profits need to be able to make up for our losses. But psychologically, it's the same way. Our belief allows us to suffer through those small periods of time until the next time of stronger belief grows. So you get this cycle going. It's amazing what can happen as you get more and more confident. So yeah, easy said than done, right? Akil, yeah, just got to believe in myself, and I'll take the right actions, and I take the right actions, I'll get the right results. Bada boom, bada bing, right? It's that simple, right? Not so fast, my friend, because it is extremely hard to believe in yourself, right? How many times have you known what to do, but just haven't done it? If you said all the time, you're just like me and most of the other people out there, right? So the question is, how do we get this belief cycle going? Lucky for you, that's what we're going to talk about today. So when we talk about the belief cycle or belief system, think about this as, I guess, being synonymous with like self-confidence, or even like courage. So when you think of belief, it's confidence, it's courage. There was a great quote. I don't remember where it's from, and I apologize, and I hope I don't butcher the quote, but it was like, all of us are born with a great belief system. However, only some of us actually use it in a way that allows us to be great. So when it comes to building that belief system, right? This is not part of the quote. I ended it. I just didn't do that, right? This is a comma, period, whatever. Next chapter. So when it comes to building that belief system, there are four things that are going to help us do that. We're going to say knowledge, we're going to say intuition, we're going to say attitude, and we're going to say vision, right? I may not talk about them in that specific order. I don't even know if the order matters or not, but those are four things that we can work on if we want to build that strong belief system. So first is going to be knowledge. And we always think of knowledge as like, oh, I learned something, right? I read a book or blah, 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 listened to a video or a podcast, right? I am knowledgeable. And yes and no, right? Knowledge is not that simple, right? I hope I don't butcher the numbers off the top of my head, but if you think about like the pyramid of knowledge, it's like we don't retain most of the information that we take in. So like if you just were to, I think, read something, I think it's audio is 10%. Hopefully, I should probably look this up. I'm going to pause this and look this up. Hold on. So we retain 5% of the information that we hear. So if we're just listening to a lecture or like a certain great podcast like this one, you're only going to retain 5% of the information you hear. Now, if you read it, you're going to retain 10% of it, right? So you've doubled the amount of knowledge that you've kept in thy brain simply by reading it with your eyes instead of listening to it with your ears. But wait, there's more. If it's like an audio visual presentation, like this video episode of the Trading Coach podcast that I should have mentioned earlier so you guys actually knew that you can see me, right? You're going to retain 20%, right? So we went from 5, we went to 10, we went to 20. If you're watching a demonstration, that's going to be like a presentation, that's going to be 30%. If you're involved in like a discussion group, so you're going back and forth, you're not just taking in information, but you're kind of regurgitating it back out, maybe having, not arguments, debates, maybe asking questions, you're going to retain 50% of it. 50? I don't know which way it shows up in the camera, but you guys got it. Then practical application. So this is actually taking what you learned and like applying it. This is going to be 75%. And then finally teaching it to others. This is going to be 90%, right? So if you pay attention to the last two, for you guys that have been on the tier 1 trading platform, what do we do after each trading lesson? I say, get out there in the charts and find some, right? Because as soon as you get the information in, I want you to try to practically apply it because that's the way you're going to retain the information. If you just listen to the lesson about double tops and double bottoms and you go into the next one, you're going to forget it. But if you listen to that lesson on double tops and double bottoms, or you listen to it, you watch the audio visual presentation, and then you go and practically apply it on the charts, you find it, you're going to retain 75% of that information. And then with me personally, I always say that I've become a much better trader once I started coaching because I'm teaching others on a regular basis, right? So in the task of teaching others, I am constantly relearning information and I'm forced to present it in different ways since everyone learns differently. This is the same thing for the veterans on our platform. And again, I don't want to make this a tier 1 trading plug, but kind of the system of success that we created. And this is why we were recognized in Forbes magazine as being the leading innovators of trading education. We took it from just where a lot of people were like, here, teaching information, to really a community where we have a platform, we teach traders. Those traders grow and develop over time. They get good, right? After they get good, we encourage that they stay on the platform and they become mentors to the younger traders. And it helps both ways. One, when the younger traders get tired of hearing me and Jason Greystone, they have other voices, other opinions, other examples that they can pick through. But for the traders that are the veterans on the platform as well, when they're getting hammered with questions from these younger traders and they're forced to kind of, teach them or explain why this is or why this isn't, they have become, in a sense, a teacher and they're retaining 90% of the information. So it helps them develop. Because one of the flaws that I guess we have is like, many of us feel, and it's tough. This is why you see a lot of successful traders actually be successful for a short amount of time and then plummet. Once we've reached the peak of success and we feel like we're successful, we tend to get lazy, right? This is like anything else in life. When we get lazy, we stop paying attention to details, we stop the continued education, and we start falling back down. So the fact that we're always teaching, we're always learning, we're always helping and supporting helps us on that upward trajectory versus kind of going off the other side of the cliff. But anyway, with that being said, knowledge is less about just learning and taking stuff in, but it's learning, taking stuff in, practicing, teaching. And that's why we say trading courses, trading books, trading videos by themselves just don't work. Now, specifically when it comes to knowledge in the markets, there are 3 bits that we need to know. We need to know how the market works, and specifically how it works from a technical level, a fundamental level, and a psychological level. So a technical level is, and this doesn't matter whether you're a fundamental first or technical first trader, right? I do think you need to have the knowledge of both. Obviously, your expertise is going to be more in one than the other. You're going to value more in one than the other, but you should have a knowledge of all three categories, right? Technicals is price movement on the chart. How does the market move from the basics of, what is a trend? What does a candlestick tell me? What are highs? What are lows? What are support? What are resistance? What are classic patterns, right? And you can go on to more specific stuff, obviously, indicators and tools, depending on what type of trader you are, but pretty much a technical knowledge of how to understand and break down a price chart. Fundamentally speaking, we need to know what news events move the markets, right? I'm a technical first trader, but I fully understand that news moves the markets. But not all news is the same, and not all news is the same over different periods of time, depending on what's happening in the world. So what are the biggest gears, right? Monetary policy. What are the smaller gears that affect those bigger gears, right? Those are the things that we need to understand, not necessarily to trade. You could certainly, if you're a fundamental trader or an investor, but even as a technical trader, so that we know how to, or I guess when to avoid being in the market, when to potentially hedge, if you listen to the last podcast episode I did, or when you can position yourself for a bigger trade when your technicals and fundamentals are aligned. Last is going to be psychological, there we go, words. I haven't done that in a while, been pretty good, right? This is understanding crowd psychology, human behavior, right? We have all the technical goodness, we have all the fundamental goodness, but at the end of the day, the market moves based on us and how we react. So being able to understand greed and fear and what things cause greed and fear, whether it's technical or fundamentally speaking, is going to be massive to a trader because it stops us from getting sucked into maybe impulse moves. And it can put us in some really good investment opportunities if we're, let's say, not afraid of the dip and understand that it's just kind of a short-term emotional reaction where we can get in at a cheaper price. So 3 bits of knowledge that you have to understand. The next one is intuition. And intuition is interesting because intuition, we talk about it a lot, where I believe that intuition is a real thing. I also believe that as a trader, we shouldn't trade off of intuition. And what that means is this, right? Intuition is experience, right? Experience that is uncategorized, right? So our brain is this filing cabinet and it files all the things in different sections. And this is why sleep is so important at night. But sometimes there are things that go into our brain that are important. They are kept there, but we can't remember where we put them or why we put them there. They just exist. And intuition is us pulling on those non-categorized things. There we go. And having a feeling, right? A gut feeling, right? Have you ever looked at a chart and been like, man, I know price is going to go up, but like you just can't put your finger on why? Well, in a negative way, you're just a new trader and you're feeling emotional pulls from probably a previous trade. Where you're like, I think it's going to go up because the last one went up, right? And that's the tough part about having intuition. Well, thinking you have intuition as a younger trader. You don't have intuition until you've earned it. So it doesn't come till later in your trading career. But once you get later in your trading career and you have that intuition, it's because you've actually seen something happen over and over and over and over again. Maybe you haven't necessarily paid attention to it because it's not in your strategy, it's not in your plan, it's just not something that you focus on, but your brain has seen it. It just doesn't know where to store it. And now you're seeing it again, and that's why you're like, right? It's like you ever see someone like at a club or a bar or somewhere out, and you're just like, man, that person looks familiar. Like me and my wife do this all the time, right? We watch usually like one TV show at night. Right now we're watching called Based on a True Story. Ooh, I like it. It's fun. And because we watch a lot of TV shows and, streaming has made us watch show after show after show after show after show after show, and we can't remember anything from any show as our attention span gets smaller and smaller, we often see people that we recognize before and we're like, man, where was she at? Like, I think we seen her somewhere, and then we start fighting. Like, no, you haven't seen her. I'm like, I'm sure we did. She was that girl. Stranger Things. That was oh yeah, there we go, right? We have this intuition because we pulled it from the past because we watched all seasons of Stranger Things. Can't wait for the next one. But we just didn't really categorize it anywhere. But it's there. Intuition is the same thing in the market. You've seen this head and shoulders pattern before, but you don't care about head and shoulders, so you paid it no mind. But you see it again, and now you're like, we should break out to the upside. Boom, 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 boom. So intuition, a usable version of intuition is understanding what you're seeing. So understand what's causing this intuition. And this is an easy fix, right? Just take pictures and take notes of everything. If you don't understand it, take a screenshot, take a screenshot, take a screenshot, have a big old filing cabinet on your desktop or wherever you're trading at of it. And that way you can go back and be like, oh, okay, that did happen a million times. I'm not going crazy and you have to back test it and whatnot. But make that intuition, make that experience, right? Your experiences in the market, make it something that is usable. So just don't go out and trade off a gut feel, but understand what you're seeing, analyze, break down, quantify, get the numbers of what you're seeing to make sure it is profitable, right? Test it, and then you can add it to your arsenal after that. Next is gonna be attitude, and attitude plays a role because you're not going to believe unless you want to believe. We can go down the whole rabbit hole of like so many people are scared of success for many reasons. But at the end of the day, right, you have to want to be good. You have to want to be successful. You have to want to make a change. You can't just sit back and be like, oh, I'm going to get this belief action results cycle started. Yay, but not actually do anything about it. You have to be driven. I told you guys a story in the past about when I first started trading and I didn't believe in myself because no one else believed in me. I read a Tony Robbins book called Awaken the Giant Within. And in that book, right, and aside from walking on hot coals and stuff like that, which I wasn't going to do, right, one of the things was, hey, write down these 10 affirmations, these positive affirmations, look yourself in the mirror and read it to you every day. And I made a conscious effort every morning. I would get in front of the mirror and I would read, I deserve to be successful because blah, blah, blah. And I was essentially brainwashing myself into success. This is a fun thing because many of you guys know, or again, maybe you don't know if you're just new to the podcast, I did a lot of work a decade ago, now I feel old, right? On neuro-linguistic programming, like specifically like changing and understanding that we have these neural pathways in our brain, right? And these are kind of the belief systems and whatnot that have grown since we were a kid, right? In your very early ages of development, your brain is growing. This is why as a parent, it's so important to kind of get hold of that at the beginning and give your kid confidence and stuff like that. But where many people think that, oh, once we hit the age of 10 or whatever it is, like, we can't learn anymore. Like, no, it's not true. Like, we can still reprogram these pathways. It just takes a lot more work and it takes a lot more consistent effort because instead of just like, you know, guiding them as they're developing, like we have to kind of go in there and grab it and do work and twist it and redirect it after that path has already been completed. It's like construction work, right? But the cool thing is we can literally change the way our brain is wired, and attitude has a lot to do with it because it has to be a consistent action, a consistent intentional action that you do on an everyday basis, like reading those affirmations, like, you know, I've been on a thing right now where I'm trying to do 10 push-ups and 20 crunches every hour. And it's very hard in the beginning, but after I got through about a week of it, now it's become part of my routine and it's pretty easy to do because, you know, when you look like me, 10 push-ups is nothing. I was struggling on day one. I got to 9. I'm like, ooh, but now I'm feeling good, right? You got to get I've been slacking in the weight room for a couple months, but now I'm back, baby. It's almost summer and the shirts are going to get tighter. So watch out for that. Anyway, you have to have drive, right? For this attitude part. You have to have desire for this attitude part. You have to be curious and also open-minded as well, right? Because the negative aspect of attitude could be this, right? We have this attitude where we're stubborn, we're focused, we're driven, which is great. But sometimes we're so driven and tunnel visioned, right, that we don't see the other opportunities out there, right? In trading specifically, it comes like this. And this is an interesting dynamic because I had to go both ways, right? In one sense, when I first started trading, I was listening to everyone and everything. And I got really confused because everything was, I was just getting influenced by everyone on the internet, which is always a bad idea. When I got mentorship in coaching, I locked in on kind of what my mentors and coaches were saying. And I locked in on my specific way of trading. But I locked in so much that I wasn't willing to learn or hear from anyone else. Like, if you approach me like, well, Akil, fundamentals do play a role in the job. Fundamentals are stupid. Get out of here, devil, right? I'd be like that. Like, it was like, you're dead to me. Like, if you don't think my way, like, you're dead to me. Get out of here. I don't want to hear it. And I'm kind of torn on this because, in a sense, I kind of had to do that to gain confidence in what I was doing. But I think eventually you have to kind of let those blinders go and be open to different things and understand that, every trader is different. You could be a successful technical trader. You could be a successful fundamental trader. You could be good trading harmonic patterns, trading classic patterns, trading indicators, trading this, trading that. Because if we want to continue to grow as traders, right, we need to be curious and we need to evolve. And you don't evolve unless you're willing to listen to other things. And there was a habit that I did at the beginning of my trading career, not beginning, like beginning of after I was successful, right? So the bad trading part, and then like the weird, awkward part, and then the successful part, right? Then after that successful part, right? I started making myself take a new course every year, right? I learned about Elliott waves. I learned about fundamental analysis, and it was stuff that I previously poo-pooed, right? Get out here, devil, right? That type of stuff that I now just wanted to hear about and at least make my own opinion and judge if it was useful or not. And the interesting thing is that, although I don't trade those waves, I don't trade all fundamentals, I don't trade Elliott waves, the knowledge that I learned in those journeys became useful in my trading. It allowed me to adjust and adapt my trading in different ways and add things that allowed me to be a better target taker, get into trades earlier, maybe keep myself out of bad situations. It did help in my trading, and I never would have gotten to that point if I was still blinded, because we all know that your strategy doesn't work the same way forever. Like, you have to be able to adjust. And if you're so static in the way that you're trading, it's good in the beginning because you're consistent with your plan, but you're not going to be able to bend or wiggle or anything like that. So attitude is this unique thing where there's different parts to it. Lastly is vision. This kind of goes hand in hand with attitude, where what is your goal? What do you want to achieve? What is the end game? You have to have a vision, because if you don't have that vision, you're not really going to be driven, right? You're not going to have the attitude to really make the changes in your belief system that you need to make. And vision is interesting because when we talk about vision, you need to have a kind of a bird's eye view vision. So not just a vision where it's like, I'm going to do this and that's it. You can only see right in front of you. You need to have a vision where you understand what the path is, right? So imagine, like, for you gamers out there, you're looking at the game map and you zoom out and you have your destination over here and you're right here, and you're able to see kind of the ebbs and flows and the wiggles and the obstacles in your way. You have to have that vision and understand that, yes, eventually I want to get here, but there are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be hardships. It is going to be one step forward and two steps backwards sometime to eventually get to three steps forward and one step backwards, right? You have to be honest with yourself and understand that it's going to take time. Something we tell all the new traders that we work with is like, hey, be ready to give yourself 2 years to be a successful trader, right? It's probably going to take you anywhere between 6 months and 18 months to be good. Or to learn and be good, I should say. But then there's going to be this weird period of time where maybe you break even for your first year, or maybe you take a step back, right? But give yourself time. Don't just give yourself the stress and the goal of I need to be successful in 3 months, because now when those obstacles come up, you're going to get into a panic mode because you didn't expect them. If you expect them, you can navigate them easier. Where it's like, hey, I know these were here. It's only a setback. Akil and Jason said this would happen. I still need to work through these. And real quick, just going back to the affirmation thing that just popped into my head again, going back to all the weird studies that I did. I remember reading a study, and again, I apologize, I don't remember where it's from, about our thoughts and how many thoughts we had per day. And I remember it saying something like, and these numbers may not be exact, and who knows if the study is exact or not, but we probably have about 70,000 or so thoughts a day, right? And I don't remember the numbers. It could be more than that. I'm not sure if I missed a zero or whatever like that, but we have a lot of thoughts a day. And many of those thoughts are kind of in the same area. 90% of those thoughts are the same. And again, this goes back to the neuroprogramming. Think about those thoughts. Think about repetitions in general. We know that repetitions build habits, and habits are what make us better if they're good habits, right? When I was a young lad, right, and I went to learn how to dribble the basketball with my left hand, I went outside and I dribbled 1,000,000 times every night with my left hand. I was really bad at first, but then after a week, after a month, after 6 months, I got really, really good just because of those repetitions. And our brain repetitions are the same way. But if you have these, 70,000 whatever thoughts a day, and 90% of them are the same thought, and it's a negative thought where it's I can't do this, I don't deserve to do this, I'll never do this, right? What are you programming yourself to be? You're programming yourself to be a loser. And I don't mean that in a negative way, saying you're a loser, but we're constantly beating ourselves down, and the more we beat ourselves down, the more we start believing it, right? It's the whole fake it till you make it. This is the opposite version of that. what we need to do is we need to control these thoughts. And the cool thing is we can, right? We have complete control over our thoughts because they're our thoughts. We own them. We need to be able to eliminate those negative thoughts right away and put in these positive ones. Going back to the affirmations, we're like, hey, I am good. I am learning. I deserve to be successful, right? And when those thoughts start shifting and we start feeding ourselves those positive thoughts every day, we start brainwashing ourselves, but this time we're doing so in a positive way. So I am a good trader. My strategy does work. I've backtested this. I deserve to be successful, right? We start believing that, and that helps our confidence, right? So when you add all of these things together, when you add that vision, when you add that change in attitude, that drive, that desire, when you add that intuition, right, that feeling, that curiosity, when you add that knowledge, that is how we build our belief system. That is how we build that engine, right? And when we get that engine going and we really start to believe, right? One thing I missed out with the intuition part is like back testing, right? Is the easiest way to build a belief before we actually have a belief, but I feel like this is a very long podcast, so I'm gonna cut this off short. When we build that engine and we get that belief system going, right? Then we're gonna take the right actions, we're gonna get the right result, that engine's gonna get bigger, we're gonna feed it, and we're gonna be unstoppable. We're gonna be that tire rolling down the hill, we're gonna be able to absorb all those little hills, and we are going to roll our way to success, whether that be in trading or anything else in life. I need a mic so I can drop it. Boom. So we had a meeting this morning going over some of the details of the upcoming workshop, and Jason informed me that we have already sold out half of our seats. Yep, 100 seats have already been taken, meaning there are 100 left, probably a little bit less by the time you hear this on the podcast. So if you are serious about joining us for the Trading War Room event, make sure you sign up right away before the seats are gone. Link is in the description box below, or just head over to www.tier1trading.com and you'll see a nice big banner on the homepage. Looking forward to seeing you there, and I'll see you guys next episode of the Trading Coach Podcast.